Buddha often told his students about the power of words, comparing the tongue to the sharpest knife. He explained that words, though not physically harmful, can deeply wound others emotionally. Words can be a source of strength, but also a weakness if used unwisely. Speaking kindly and at the right moments leads to success, while unkind words spoken at the wrong times create difficulties. Let me share a story illustrating the power of silence and how it can change your life. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Tibet, there lived a king named Liang. Known for his sharp wit and eloquence, King Liang was also infamous for his talkative and impatient nature. His advisors and ministers often found it challenging to get a word in during conversations with him. Despite his good intentions, his inability to listen and his hasty decisions began causing unrest in the kingdom. Liang's reputation reached the ears of a wise monk named Tianwu, who lived in a remote monastery in the mountains. His wisdom was known throughout the land, and people came from far and wide to seek his guidance. One day, the monk visited the king and offered him a solution to his problems. "Your Majesty," Tianwu said, "if you truly wish to become a better ruler, you must learn the power of silence and patience. I can teach you that in 15 days. Intrigued and desperate for change, King Liang agreed. Bowing deeply, he confessed, "Respected monk, despite having wealth, fame, and luxury, I feel tired, frustrated, and restless. Please help me find peace." Tianwu looked into the king's eyes and said, "The answer is within you, but you have not yet discovered it." The king, though skeptical and upset, agreed. Tianwu instructed, "For the next 15 days, stay in my monastery, live like an ordinary person, sit in silence, and speak as little as possible." On the first day, the king's mind was more restless than ever. Questions and doubts tormented him, and he found it challenging to live the simple life of a monk. He craved to speak, to express his frustrations, but he held back, remaining silent as instructed. As night fell, something unexpected happened. The king felt a faint sense of calm and happiness. He couldn't understand why his restlessness was fading, but it intrigued him enough to continue. The next day, King Liang spent time in isolation, watching nature, flowers, plants, and birds. For the first time, he truly saw the beauty of nature around him. 10 days passed, and the inner chaos gradually vanished. On the 12th day, he found himself slipping into deep meditation, his eyes closing on their own. In this state, his mind became free from uneasiness, and he experienced profound inner peace. On the 15th day, the king approached Tianwu and said, "Master, I have discovered why my mind was so troubled. I used to talk too much and think negatively about people. This excessive talking and negative thinking wasted my time and disturbed my senses, leading to failures and unhappiness. But these days of silence have transformed me. I now feel truly alive and at peace. Now, may I now speak freely?" Tianwu looked at him smilingly and simply shook his head, signaling King to remain silent. Puzzled but respectful, King Liang obeyed. The next day, the king asked again, "Master, is my training over?" Once more, Tianwu refused, his expression calm and unreadable. Days turned into weeks, and each day, Liang would ask the same question, and Master would deny him. Frustration and impatience began to bubble up within Liang, but he remembered the tranquility he had felt and forced himself to endure the silence. One morning, a month after the initial 15 days, Liang sat by the stream, watching the sunrise. He felt the cool breeze on his face and heard the rustling leaves. A profound realization emerged upon him. His impatience and desire to speak were the very barriers to his growth. True understanding and wisdom came from observing and listening, not just talking. That day, King Liang approached Tianwu but did not ask if he could speak. He simply bowed deeply, showing his respect and understanding. Seeing this change, Tianwu smiled warmly. "My dear King Liang, you have finally understood. Silence is not merely the absence of speech, but the presence of patience and insight. You may now speak, for you have learned when not to." King Liang returned to his kingdom, transformed. He listened intently to his advisors and ministers, speaking only when necessary and with thoughtful consideration. His reign became one of prosperity and harmony, and the kingdom flourished like never before. But the story didn't end there. As the king was absent for a month, a rival monarch sensing weakness attacked his kingdom without knowing King Liang's new superpower of silence. The kingdom's panicked military generals, ministers, and advisors rushed toward the king to discuss the defense strategy of the kingdom's capital. King Liang, in the center of the chaos, asked everyone to quiet up and instructed them to vacate the capital and make sure to carry as many supplies possible and destroy the supplies, including crops, while retreating towards a much safer place in the kingdom. Today, the approach is commonly known as scorched earth policy. He also instructed to convey the message to citizens to not guard or resist the approaching enemy, instead just bow to the enemies approaching. The enemy king finally reached the capital, but upon entering, he found the city largely abandoned or citizens with no resistance. Despite occupying the capital, the enemy king's mental state was full of confusion and uneasiness. Why is Liang not fighting? Why is he retreating? Why are citizens not fighting my army or even showing signs of resistance? With the rainy monsoon season approaching and no signs of Liang's surrender, the enemy king decided to send a letter to King Liang, hoping to negotiate a ceasefire or surrender or get ready for a war. But King Liang did not respond. His silence was a strategic decision, a psychological tactic to frustrate and confuse the enemy king. Liang was determined not to negotiate or talk and hoped that the enemy would get more urge to talk and negotiate and eventually force a retreat. Realizing the hopelessness of his position and fearing the total destruction of his army, thinking that Liang was preparing for a sneaky attack, the enemy king decided to retreat and decided to attack back after getting Liang's response. The retreat quickly turned into a nightmare. The enemy army faced thunderstorms of monsoon, cyclones, inadequate supplies and food, and relentless short attacks by King Liang's forces. Thousands of frustrated and hungry soldiers abandoned the army, and the enemy king, till he reached his own kingdom, was left with less than half of the soldiers. Immediately after careful observation, King Liang returned to his kingdom and technically won the war without even fighting, using the power of silence. King Liang's refusal to respond to the enemy king's letter and his strategic use of silence played a crucial role in the enemy's downfall. Reflecting on this, the king realized that talking less and choosing words carefully brought respect and success. Great individuals speak few words, thoughtfully considering their impact and increasing the value of words or thoughts to listeners. In contrast, excessive talkers often spread negativity and harm relationships, making people avoid them. Ancient texts from various cultures highlight that words reflect our beliefs and values. Silence fosters patience and awareness, helping us understand ourselves better. Spending at least 20 minutes in silence daily can bring positive change in our lives. As we conclude this story, I invite you to join our Starlight Studios community. If you found inspiration here, please like, share, and comment with your thoughts or Zen stories you'd like to hear. Subscribe and ring the notification bell for more moments of motivation and tranquility. Thank you for walking this path of wisdom and enlightenment with us.